We can get them to do it, and it might not be lightning fast, but we could probably get them to do it. But it's their dog, right? That's what I have to remember. It's like it's their dog.
Yeah.
I'm here to help them with the problems that they've presented to me. If they want, and that's the other thing I tell people all the time is like, you don't have to be a dog trainer if you're a client of mine, right? You don't have to. But if you want to learn a lot of cool stuff, I will share all the cool stuff, why we do all the stuff that we do. And those are the fun clients, right? Those are the ones who are like, no, tell me more. I want off-leash obedience. I want this, and this. And you're like, great, let's pave the road to get there. And then there's the others, which is, again, totally fine. It's like, I just want my dog to stop barking at people, walk nicely on a loose leash, and go potty outside. Great, we can do all that too. But sometimes we as trainers see the potential in a dog, and we're like, well.
And both of our everything separately. Cool. Hey everybody, so I'm Leanne Shinton from Automation Dogs, formerly Pet Biz Experts, a software CRM for dog trainers. And Lawren Bennett is joining us today from Walking with Walter. How are you, Lawren?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have. But before we dive into the stuff that we want to kind of talk about to help dog trainers out there, because you're doing something really special out there. And I'm so excited that you're happy to share with us today. But I would love to hear about Walking with Walter. I looked at your website and thought it was, of course, so memorable. So tell us a little bit about you and dog training, how you got started and all that great stuff.
Sure. Well, again, thanks for having me. So when people ask me how long I've been training dogs, I always tell them probably my whole life. I've always been just good with dogs naturally. And what started the business was essentially about 8-9 years ago. I decided I was fed up with the corporate world and wanted to stay home with my daughter while she was very young. And so when I started looking around about when she was going to start going to preschool and going back to school, my wife really pushed me. I got to give my wife the credit she deserves into starting a dog training business. And when she said, just throw away all your shirts and ties, let's just start a dog training business. Yeah, you could do that? Really? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And so I'd always been helping my friends and neighbors with their dogs. And so I just thought, okay, let's just try this. Let's just see what happens. And it was pretty wild how quickly it grew, all organically. I didn't do any advertising. So been in business about 10 years, been training dogs officially for 15, but the business was incorporated about 10 years ago. And so when I started, I literally just put something on the Nextdoor app about training and started getting a couple phone calls, and then started getting more phone calls, and the business just took off. Started with going to everybody's home, right? As everybody kind of starts off, I was on the road a lot, doing free evaluations as young trainers do. You're just kind of doing anything to get business started and get it going. And it just took off. And how we landed on the name, I know you were asking about that earlier, is Walter was my English bulldog. And I was inspired to really start training because of him and really kind of get into the nitty gritty of training, not just loose leash walking and all the silly stuff. But as everybody knows, bulldogs are pretty hard headed and they can be very stubborn. And he had a crazy personality and everybody loved him. But I was an owner at the time when I lived in Phoenix. When I had him, I was a single guy and I had him and would take him out and he would just be a bull in a china shop. And I couldn't tolerate it. And I was like, everybody loves him, but I need to have a dog that's well behaved and in control and can take into public and all that stuff. So what I decided to do is name the business after him. And the reason why I originally named it Walking with Walter was because at the time, Cesar Millan was big, right? And that was like the big thing. And everybody was always watching him. And he was impressing people, just getting dogs to walk nicely on a loose leash. And I thought there is a lot that goes on a walk with dogs that people don't recognize. And so it's about a relationship. It's about, good manners, well-behaved dog, in command, out of command, all of those little things that people just don't think about. And so a lot of times when pet owners call us, 0.9 times out of 10, like one of the boxes that's always checked is loose leash walking. Mm-hmm. And so I started to dive deeper into training. I mean, it wasn't just me teaching people to walk dogs on a loose leash. It turned into behavior modification and all this other, all the bigger picture stuff that we start to deal with as trainers. And so that's how the name came about. And then that's kind of how the business bloomed and grew, was I just started getting a lot of referrals. I just had a ton of referrals. And I think a big part of that was because of my background in sales. I'm not out selling the business, but I'm good at communicating with people. And I think that's where a lot of young trainers really struggle is the communication piece. A lot of people just say, hey, I want to train dogs, or I want to start out in a doggy daycare because I love spending time around dogs. And they may even be naturally good with dogs, or they've gone to a training school. But the business side of it, I think a lot of people struggle. And they struggle with the communication piece. And also when I started, I had no idea how challenging it would be as it relates to the human side of things. Right? So my tagline for the business is I train dogs and I teach humans. But I often say in jest that the training the dogs is really the easy part. Because when you have dogs that have behavioral issues or even just obedience issues, right, a lot of it is changing the habits of the owners and explaining to them, being able to communicate with them the challenges that come with that and the behavior changes that have to take place with them before the dogs can even make those adjustments. And so I went from doing a lot of private sessions to then board and trains, and now I have about a 50-50 split between private training sessions and board and train sessions, or board and train dogs. But the board and trains come in and we do a pretty good job of either a 4-week or a 6-week with a behavior mod type situation. We have a dog, we have to do that.
So sales and marketing, your background, that really helps because you guys are killing it over there. You're in Colorado?
Yeah. So, I'm not super savvy as it relates to, Instagram and all the social media stuff, but I do have a good knack for selling myself. So before I start business with anyone, we do an evaluation, and I tell them on the phone or when they get here is like, the purpose of this evaluation is not only for you to ask me as many questions as you like, but for us to get a good feel for each other. Am I the right fit for you? Because the last thing I want to do is bring somebody in and start working with them and realize, they're not a good fit, or my style doesn't work for them, or they're not committed to doing the work. And of course, there's always the one-offs where folks are saying all the right things, and then they come in and you realize they're not really committed to doing the work, and we have those conversations. But I think I'm very fair in my conversations with my clients up front, because it's about setting the right expectations. If you set the expectations, then everybody can be held accountable, including myself. Right? If I tell them we're going to do this, this, and this in this next session, and here's where I hope to see us progress, then I hope that they hold me accountable to that. And every time somebody leaves my facility, I tell them, you have the ability to call me, text me, or send me a video if you're struggling with anything. And I encourage you to take me up on that, because the last thing I want to do is send somebody out and make them feel like they're on an island and they have to wait a week or 2 weeks before they come back and do another session with me. And so I hold myself accountable to that, and I hold my trainer accountable to that, and I hold our clients accountable to that. And so that's a big piece of you could say it's marketing, because the word gets out, right? Oh, Lawren's going to help us, and he's there to be there for you. But it took me a while to realize it is a sales job too, right? It is a business. And that's, for the last few years, I've really kind of turned it up a little bit and been like, it is a business. I had a trainer tell me a long time ago, he's like, I'm actually a small business owner that's also a dog trainer. And that helped me kind of change my mindset a little bit around, yes, it's a fun job to have, but it's also a business, right? You have to focus on some of the financial pieces in order to survive. And especially here in Colorado, there's so many, there's enough dogs for everybody, as we know, but I don't think there's enough really good dog trainers for everybody. And so that's where I think young trainers have an opportunity to learn and take advantage of all the information that's out there, good and bad, right? You can learn from the bad stuff too. You can learn what you don't want to do and how you don't want to do things. But from a social media standpoint, as I mentioned earlier, my Instagram started simply because I wanted board and train clients to be able to see their dogs when they were here. Yeah. Rather than me trying to send updates and send text messages and being like, hey, so I just put those on there, and they love it. And so I'm trying to get better about at least putting out more helpful and useful information. But as you know, right, even doing these podcasts, right, the editing time and all the stuff that it takes to do it. So I just record stuff kind of live as I go and just post it, and it's out there and they can see their dogs, and people can learn hopefully a little bit while they're watching it.
So a couple takeaways that I wanted to dive into a little deeper there was your customer service sounds amazing. And it sounds like it's like a core value for you, and to make sure your team has amazing customer service.
Yeah, 100%. I I want people to be treated the way that I want to be treated. And I know a lot of people say that, but I don't think very many people really mean it. And, in this day and age, like, you call, you're going to get me or you're going to get somebody. I make an effort to, if I get a lead, I'm calling them within 8 hours, if not 24 hours, or they're getting some sort of contact from me. I want to make sure. I mean, I think honestly, when my business started, I would say 70% of the business was because I picked up the phone. They called and I answered, or I called back. I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to, and I hear, I've called like 15 trainers today, and you're the first one to call me back. Like, well, great, let's talk. And once we start talking, they realize, okay, one, this guy knows what he's talking about. Two, sounds like he's likable, and maybe we should set up an evaluation and go meet him. And who knows if those people ever call him back? And I don't buy the thing of like, well, we're just so busy. Well, if you're so busy, then good for you. But call somebody back, right? I expect a call back or a text message or something. Hey, we're too busy to take on new clients. Here's another number for another trainer. I mean, I've passed business on to other trainers that I trust. Absolutely. If I'm too busy, I still pick up the phone and call somebody back. I never blow anybody off.
Yeah. And like me, I love automation. It's amazing. But there has to be a manual element. I saw a slogan today. I think it was like on some Tony Robbins thing that I ordered. I got this box, and on this box, I looked up, it's in my closet, cute little thing I got, and I had to keep it. And it said touch plus tech. And like, I thought about it, and I'm like, you got to reach out, touch those leads plus tech. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what automation needs to be in line with. There has to be a balance, and you have to call your leads.
Yeah. And people are happy to even just get that automation right away. Right? They're just like, they're grateful that something happened. Like there was some sort of process. They know that they reached somebody or something at least, and they're happy about it. And they're like, okay, great. Yeah, call me tomorrow. I understand you may be busy, whatever it is. But the automation piece now with tech and everything, it's making life easier for everybody. But again, you still have to do some work where you can actually talk to somebody. And I know plenty of trainers that don't even, they'll flat out say, I don't really like talking to people. I'm like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to communicate with your clients. Unless you're just doing turn and burn board trains and you're still not having follow-ups with your clients, you're not going to see lasting success there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely think you're right about like having some kind of automation is good. At least something goes out. Yeah. Because last night we ordered Thai food. We were so exhausted after teaching a dock diving seminar, and it was like 100 degrees in Kansas or Missouri, wherever I am. And we got home, we ordered Thai food, and it didn't look like it went through. And it was like, we ordered it online, and we're like, did the confirmation. We're starving over here. So we called them. No, it didn't go through. So definitely having and testing your calendaring and things like that to make sure that your clients aren't having a bad experience and something's not working correctly. And they're like, I need my food. I need my dog training.
Somebody's got to call me.
Yes. Now, another thing that you said I heard it, was you had like a mindset shift where you're like, I love training dogs. Dogs are cool. This is awesome. My customer service is great. But like, there seemed to be like a mindset shift for you where you turned into like a beast for your business. Like, I am going to really drive this business. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think some of it came from experience and confidence in training. So what I mean by that is when I started out, I kind of knew what I knew. And then I realized, there's a lot more out there to learn. I by no means thought I knew everything, but I was able to solve a lot of people's pet dog problems very easily. And then more complicated cases started coming in, and I thought, I need to further my education. So off to Learburg I go, off to, whatever I can find on YouTube at the time, right? We're only talking 15 years ago, but a lot of that information just wasn't out there, right? It was Michael Ellis videos or maybe somebody on YouTube, but it wasn't a lot of information out there. So I started digging and trying to, take some online courses and finding more information. But as I got more confident, I felt better about selling the business and my ability to kind of the masses rather than just folks that were just kind of trickling in from a referral that had, kind of little bits of issues here and there. But then I felt more confident in saying, yeah, I know the answer to this, or I can help you with this particular problem. Because I remember when I first started, I would tell people, hey, if I don't have an answer, I will get you one. Now, In hindsight, that's probably not the best thing because I'm not really instilling a lot of confidence that I know everything, right? But out of fairness to them, I wanted to tell them, hey, if I don't have an answer, luckily I have somebody I can call. Or I can get that information and get that answer to you, and we'll work on this next time I see you, or I'm going to call you back with that information. And usually, if it was anything serious like aggression cases at the time, I was not taking any of those because I was not equipped to do it. So that's kind of when that shift happened, is when I started dealing with more complicated cases, feeling more confident and comfortable with those cases, and then going, okay, I have the ability, I have to believe in myself, get over this, hurdle of fear of failure, because I had been successful and luckily really didn't have any real failures, right? The business started taking off. So it was more about fear of success at that point than anything. And feeling confident in my ability to train and to coach young trainers and coach clients, train the dogs and show my work, right? Is the important thing. We hear that a lot in this industry, but you have to show your work. And so when people would come, they'd see my dogs, or I'd have board and trains and bring a board and train out to show them where we've progressed with a board and train that's only been with us for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And so I started just gaining confidence there, right? So I kind of let my work speak for itself and started talking more about, okay, how do I make this a real business, not just a hobby that I'm making money on, right? Because I have a family to support. And so that shift happened probably 5 years in. I started feeling very confident in my abilities and in the business, and to be able to make good on promises to folks.
That is interesting. Yeah, I think for me too, boy, I've been training dogs for 37 some odd years, but I was always I don't enjoy sales and, got up, you got to become a sales beast. I looked at evaluations, I'm evaluating the dog and I'm helping the family, but there is an element of sales that you still need to learn and how to talk to people. So much goes into bettering yourself to be this entrepreneur, this business owner.
Yeah. And the thing that I think makes me a little unique in that is that I just assume we're going to end up working together. It's like, hey, even if it's an evaluation, it's, hey, all right, so when you guys get signed up, here's what the schedule might look like. And it's not like a sleazy sales pitch, right? And that's the other thing with the internet. There's all these sleazy sales guys out there, all these business coaches and all this nonsense. And that's not sales. Sales is relationship building, right? Sales should be helping people, right? You have a problem, I have a solution. Let's see if my solution is a good fit for your problem and for you and your family. Not just, your dog's a mess, I can help fix your dog, and here's how you sign up. It's uncomfortable, gross. It's ugly, it's gross.
Yeah.
And so I work with tons of families, right? With kids and part of the pitch is, right? It's I've got my own kids, and you can see how my kids handle my dogs and work with my dogs. And your kids can be a part of the process too. And we set up special fun stuff for the kids to do with the dogs while they're here. But sales shouldn't be a pain. It shouldn't be challenging. Right? If you have confidence and you believe in your product and you believe that you have a solution for a certain pain point, then it should be easy. You shouldn't have to convince anybody. It shouldn't be mind games to try and get somebody to sign on the dotted line. It's never going to be a good thing, ever, in my opinion.
Great advice. So if a lead comes in, let's say they fill out a contact form or a chat widget on your site, and they simply just write, "What is your pricing?" ? So what would you do at that point?
So this just happened the other day, as a matter of fact. My pricing is actually pretty transparent. I have my pricing on my website, but somebody had called me, somehow got my number, called me and said, "Hey, how much is it to train your dog, or to train my dog?" And I said, well, let's talk about what's going on. Tell me what's happening. And then they just open up, right? And they go, my dog just bit my wife because he was resource guarding a bone, and we're having a baby in 6 months, and we can't have this. And so my answer was, well, let's do this. Before we do anything, let's get an evaluation. Let's put eyes on the dog. Let's meet, let's get together. You can evaluate me, and I can see how we can help you and see how severe this issue might be. And then I said, by the way, everything's on the website, but we don't make any determination about programs and what may be a good fit for you until we've had our evaluation. And he said, well, I've actually already been on the site. And he was still asking about pricing. And I said, so you did see the pricing on the website? And he goes, yeah, I just wasn't sure if there's anything else that wasn't on there, but everything looks kind of good to me. He's like, you're kind of on the more expensive side, to be honest with you. But he goes, I like everything you've had to say, so I'll book an evaluation. And I sent him the link. He signed up for an evaluation 5 minutes after our phone call. And so get them in the door, right? Get them in the door. And part of the reason also worth talking about is, as I started out, like I said, I started doing evaluations for free. I was like, I'll go anywhere, sign anybody up if I can get them in the door. But what I found over time was that I wasn't getting there was like little to no ROI, right? People would take advantage, and rightly so, right? I'm offering a free evaluation. Take the information and try and kind of run with it on their own. And what I changed about all of that was, one, I was asking people for a small amount to sign up for an evaluation. So I'm asking for some sort of commitment on their part, and then that they would come to me for it. And what I noticed almost immediately was I was getting people that were more committed to doing the training, and it wasn't somebody that was looking for a quick fix. And then in addition to that, as soon as they show up and I put my hands on the leash, I can show them how quickly we can affect some change with some very simple things. And they're like, wow, our dog has never done that before. Or I've never been able to get him to stop barking. I've never been able to get him to get on a place board, whatever it is. So by the time we're done with a 30-minute evaluation, they're like, this looks good. We like it. Or, hey, we've already talked to 2 other trainers and we didn't like them. And we didn't like their system, or whatever it might be. And so that's kind of an easy sale, right? It's an easy close because I'm showing them exactly the changes we can affect, showing them how they can do it, and I'm showing them that I'm meeting their needs, and price then oftentimes doesn't become such a big issue.
Yeah. And so when someone reaches out, what is your pricing ? You're going to then take control of the conversation and ask them the question. So now you're listening and they're sharing and building trust and able to show value in you and your system and your facility. Yeah, that is excellent what you just went through, because I think that if people could learn and kind of model a little bit of what you're doing in that flow, that would really help, because it might not be me, the dog trainer. It might be that I've hired a receptionist and
Sure,
someone
yeah.
fills out a contact form. What is your pricing? And then they reply, our pricing is this, and our 6-week is this, and our boarding is this. But like you need to ask them questions at that point and try and get them on the phone.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. I've kind of learned to identify those, but right, it's an executive assistant, it's a nanny, it's a dog walker. It's like, hey, I'm doing research for my family that I work with, or for my boss, or whatever it is. It's pretty obvious that they're just kind of going down a list and calling everybody.
Yeah.
But if you're the one person that doesn't just go, here's my pricing and here's how to do it, you're like, well, tell me more, right? It's just tell me more. Tell me what's going on. And then they go, oh, well, I can't tell you that, but I'll have to talk to the boss or talk to my partner or whatever it is. And then you're engaged in a conversation, right? Then now you've got the ball rolling. And if you come through, right, in the old sales days, right, that the SME, right, the subject matter expert, right? Like that's who you become. And now you become a source of information that's not only valuable to them, but then they're also willing to pay you for your time. And so sometimes I have folks that reach to me from out of state, or clients that have moved out of state, and they're like, hey, Lawren, we're trying to find a new dog, or hey, can you help us find a new trainer? Or do you want to just do online classes? Can we do that with you, where we're doing Zoom sessions? Because I built that trust. I had somebody just yesterday call me, that came for an evaluation, that their physician, one of their physician's clients had trained a dog with me and told their physician about it, and their physician told this new patient.
Wow.
So it was like a weird 6 degrees of separation kind of deal. But she's like, I don't know how to put who referred me other than my physician did, but it was one of his patients that told him about you. I was like, however it works, we'll take it. But the word of mouth is just so powerful. And you just don't get that from just treating everybody like a number. It just won't happen.
Yeah. Now, you'd mentioned too, like if you're talking to maybe one spouse or someone in the family, but maybe you need to get mom and dad to your facility, what would be like some of the language you would use because I find that the dog, of course, will behave differently for mom versus dad and the kids, and there can be a lot of friction if you're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
It can actually cause a lot of problems with marriages and things like that. Half the time as dog trainers, we're like marriage counselors.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear how you kind of have that part of the conversation to make sure mom and dad and everybody kind of comes out.
I again just had a call this morning with somebody exactly like that. And first thing is I tell them is that my marriage counseling rates are higher than my dog training rates, and that everybody has to be on board. It has to be a good partnership. And you just said it. I've had, and we've all had them probably, but I've had sessions where the wife is standing behind the husband and pointing at him saying, you need to tell him this, and like coaching me on what to tell him. I'm like, guys, we have to be on the same page. There has to be kind of a bare standard of what we want to accomplish. And I'll have clients write it down. Like, you guys, after an evaluation, if I can tell there's friction, or, the husband kind of got dragged along, oftentimes it is the husband, right? Gets dragged into it. And he's like, okay, I'll go. And it's like, you guys need to write down what goals, what you want to accomplish with your dog. And then next time you see you, we're going to go over those goals, and we're going to talk about how we meet those goals. And at least that helps align the two of them a little bit, where they go, okay, one, he's serious about this, right? And then there's going to always be a little bit of friction there, and I can then say, this is a no-go. You guys have to get the dog out of the bed, right? Or whatever that might be, or the dog needs to be kenneled more often, whatever it is. And then I say, if we can agree on these things, we can move forward and work together. If not, you guys are going to continue to struggle. It doesn't matter what trainer you hire. Any good trainer is going to tell you the exact same thing I did as a bare minimum and a standard to help you guys with the behavior issue you're dealing with or the obedience issue you're dealing with. And then consistency is key. If you and I could be billionaires, if we had a magic wand that helped people be consistent with their dogs, that's the magic right there. And so I'm very upfront about folks, like, you have to be consistent. And so when we see that friction, it's like, well, he lets the dog jump on him when he comes home from work. I don't. Well, how are we going to fix that, right? If your dog's knocking your children over or knocking grandma over when she comes over, the dog can't be jumping on anybody. So how do we fix that? Dad, can you help us or not? Because the end result, right, and I paint a very pessimistic picture, is like, the dog jumps on grandma, grandma breaks her hip. Do you want that? No, right? So the dog can't be jumping on you either. And usually, as you know, it's the tiny dogs that get away with murder. And so I paint the picture of, if this was a 65-pound dog, you would have called me a year ago. But you've allowed the dog to get away with this, and oftentimes the husband goes, yeah, you're right. And then we go, okay, let's work on this together. But finding that balance, right, and finding that coaching piece that can help them come to the same, realization that, okay, we may disagree on certain things, but here's foundational pieces that we have to agree on, and if we want to fix these issues, and then we can move forward.
Wow, you're good. Yeah, that was excellent. I was processing in my head because I'm like, I have had situations where it's like, with multiple dogs, being a trainer with some real pain in the butt dogs, and it's like, yeah, that was excellent. Good marriage counseling advice there. So one of the things that it sounds like you're very clear on is your programs and what you offer. And I was speaking with a dog trainer the other day, and fresh out of school, and just like landed on, I'm going to be an obedience trainer and behavior mod trainer, which is perfect because, in my opinion, like, obedience is definitely a good money maker. Pet dog obedience, behavior mod, people always need that.
Yeah.
There's this
people and dogs need that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this ebb and flow as a dog trainer where it's busy, it's slow, it's busy, it's slow sometimes. But behavior mod stuff, it's not a luxury. This is necessary. Dogs got bathroom problems or aggression problems or fear or whatnot. Like, it can't wait. So you're always going to be busy by offering that. But yeah, I'd love to hear your take on, like, somebody that maybe I went to National Canine, and I was taught like police canine training, and I walked with a guide dog for the blind, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to do it all. But I think really identifying who you want to help and what you need to offer to those folks, that is something maybe to niche down a little bit so you're not running in too many different directions, and you can, really build a brand that reaches those people. Of course, when I first started training dogs, you'd mentioned earlier, like, it's about the people too. And yeah, I was like, dogs are cool. I love dogs. But then one day it was like, I actually really love helping families and people with their dog. And it kind of, grew or evolved. But yeah, maybe share a little bit on like who and what you want to offer, so you're not too broad.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it is important to kind of pick something that, so, rather than being a jack of all trades, master of none, pet dogs, no matter what you want to do, pet dog obedience training is probably the most challenging of a lot, because you're dealing with a variety of dogs, you're dealing with a variety of people, all with different needs, people and dogs. And so finding something that you can get really good at and honing in on that, as you said, is important. I've been fortunate enough to where I think, like a lot of trainers, you start training pet dogs and then you go, well, dogs can do some pretty cool stuff. And then you kind of go, well, maybe I should try and do some sport dog stuff, or maybe I should do this. And as a trainer, that's always the exciting stuff for us, is having dogs that have a real high drive and a mindset that we can master and manipulate and do all sorts of cool stuff with. But that's fine as kind of as an aside for a lot of trainers. But as a core business, you do need to find something that you can excel at. And then I think for me, naturally, it's just kind of grown organically for me outside of just pet dog training to doing some sport dog stuff, and with my Cane Corso doing, some PSA work and some NADF stuff. And naturally, then that whole side of folks then kind of start being attracted to you and how you train your dog. And having a big dog like that, he's a magnet for attention as we go out. And so I talk to him all about the pet dog stuff. And then I'm like, he's trained to do all sorts of really cool stuff, police canine type stuff. That usually gets people, piques their interest.
Yeah.
But the core business is always going to be pet stuff. So whether it's obedience or behavior mod, I think the behavior mod piece is where, I think, to your point, that especially young trainers think that they can handle behavior mod, and they maybe get in over their head.
Yes.
And then mistakes are made. We all have to learn from mistakes, and I make mistakes to this day, right? Mistakes are going to happen. But as a young trainer, I always tell folks, like, start with what you know. If you've gone to a school, pick a core subject and stick with that and get really good at that, because then naturally you're just going to start finding other things that are going to be challenging. Find a mentor, find a trainer that maybe has expertise in maybe another field that you're interested in. But there's always going to be a crossover, hopefully. And as we say a lot today in like modern dog training, things are evolving every day. And the way that we train and teach dogs evolves every day. But if you're not going to seminars, you're not learning from people that have been in the industry for a long time, good ones that have been in the industry for a long time, I should correct that, is you're gonna go beyond your reach, right? You're going to get stuck, or you're going to make a mistake, or your business will suffer because you're just trying to do too much at once. And so for folks that are starting the pet dog stuff, puppies, everybody's getting puppies all the time, right? Master some puppy stuff. Mm-hmm. Some introduction to engagement. So one thing that I talk a lot about is not to get too much in the weeds on the training side of things, is puppies are the best because they are just a piece of clay waiting to be molded. And I think as you train more dogs, you realize that it's like, wow, I can actually do a lot with this. But just teaching engagement rather than the sits, the downs, all the, PetSmart, all that simple stuff. The number of people that I have come to me from a PetSmart class, right? And I'm not knocking those. For some people, that's all they need. But the reality is they spend so much time on just obedience rather than engagement and teaching the dog to value the person at the end of the leash or the owner or whoever's in the room with them. Because once they understand those core things, you can teach the dog anything you want. It's super easy. But I think young trainers start rushing things, right? They don't have, or maybe they have too much of a plan. They've overthought it and like, okay, for today's class, this is what we're going to cover. And we got to get through all of these things. And so I've never offered group classes, really. I'll do like a group class for existing clients where it's more of a social hour. We're getting together and maybe tightening some things up. But I think I see a lot of young trainers offering group classes, and I think they're doing the clients a disservice and the dogs a big disservice because it's chaotic. There's too much going on, and you can't focus on one thing. And you're trying to teach 8 dogs that are 6 months old to 5 years old how to go on a place board. And it's like, it's just not going to work because you don't have any foundations in place. And more importantly, this is something I still have to remind myself and my clients have fun. If you're not having fun, your clients aren't having fun, and their dogs certainly aren't having fun.
Yeah, I agree. 150%. Group classes are hard. If I've done them, it's been, you've got to have some foundation first before you'll move into group and on from there. What you were speaking on about like focusing on pet dogs and maybe easier behavior mod stuff. Don't get too crazy in that because you could set yourself up to fail. And then, you kind of lose your confidence. And it's like, you shouldn't really be quite to that space yet, because some of that stuff is really hard. We're trainers losing sleep over this. I was like, I'm going to walk away from that. But I found, for me, I like training pet dogs, but I actually really specifically like training women with their little sissy, fearful, or big dogs, but fearful dogs. Not to the point where I'm going to get bitten too badly, but I find that it's easier for me being female too. The dogs, kind of prefer to deal with me than maybe a big dude. So I've got that going for me. And when we would get our board and trains in and the dogs were really nervous, I'm usually the one that got them. So I learned a lot on my fearful dogs and also on my, fur mummies that are like, my baby. And I'm like, I get it. I have a baby too. And I know how to kind of speak to fur mummies.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say I still struggle with that, but I think that my approach is right is I tell folks this too, is like, I don't like to make concessions for a dog. I don't want to feel like I have to rearrange my life because I can't leave my dog in a kennel for 30 minutes without a mind. And not to get too deep in the weeds again here, but what you just said is like the fur mommies and fur daddies and all that stuff. There's a lot of them out there, but they all still have an image of a dog that they want in their minds. And sometimes what they want and what they have are clashing. And some of the behaviors and some of the things that they want from the dog, like I want to snuggle with my dog, I want to have him do this, but I also, I want him in the bed, but I don't want him biting my spouse every time my spouse tries to give me a hug, right? There's incompatible things going on there. And so also being able to communicate that, hey, those are incompatible behaviors. You can't have your dog sleeping in the bed and then your dog biting your spouse, right? We have to fix those things. We have to work on them. And so sometimes that's a light bulb moment for owners, like, yeah, I do realize that. And then for some, back to this idea of like, I'm not a fit for everybody and everybody's not a fit for me. I'm very frank with folks, like, hey, if you can't get your dog out of your bed for the next 60 days, let's not sign up. Let's not move forward. Let's not go past this evaluation. But if you can do that for the next 30 days, great. Call me. Let's start working together. Because you're going to see the changes. I guarantee it if you stick with it. But to your point, right? Nervous, fearful dogs, that's what triggered it for me, right? That's a lot of those dogs. That's the stuff that's going on in the home a lot. And as we talk about, the evaluation piece and how I started and kind of put all this stuff together, is like the intake form that people fill out is pretty thorough. And by the time I see that, before I actually see the client and their dog, I know what's going on in the house. I don't almost see, not that I'm a fortune teller or a Kreskin here, but right, like when they get here, I can start telling them what's going on in their house without them even telling me. And I think that gives me a lot of credit. Right? They go, wow, nope, that's our dog. That's our dog. Just yesterday, I had a guy here, and I was talking about how one of my core things that drives me crazy is when people tell me their dog won't get in the car, won't jump in the car, and he was like, yeah, he's kind of like nodding on. He's like, yeah, that happens a lot. And so we're getting ready to leave. And he goes, so he kind of like confessed. He goes, so he doesn't get in the car. And I said, he's getting in the car today. I grabbed the leash, dog jumped in the car first try. And he goes, he's never done that. And I said, he's taught you well. He's taught you that he's not going to do it. And with me, ever since I grabbed the leash, he knew I better just get in the car. Boom. Problem solved. Got a bunch of treats done. And so I'm very direct about this. He's like, the dog will do it. You just need to learn how to get your dog.
Yeah. He's working you. Another thing I just wanted to share, because it hit me this weekend. I was helping my friend. I'm here helping her with her facility. And she's like, can you help me teach the stock diving seminar? And I'm like, sure. So we went out there in the miserable 100-degree Missouri heat. It was,
and humidity.
Oh, it was miserable, and I'm not used to it. But I'm there, and I'm watching these dogs jump, and they're doing dog diving, and I'm like, just in my mind, I'm like, okay, you could be doing so much on land, and this is going to be great, and we can help you with this. And so I'm like, well, maybe on land you could throw the ball a bunch and do this. And they're like, oh, he wwon't fetch a ball on land. And I'm like, right, pet dogs. Sorry, It's been a while. And when I see, and I wanted to mention that, because like us as dog trainers, finding that like who we want to help, what types of dogs, Like if you get into sport and like, I'm going to teach all these dogs to do dock diving and they're going to be amazing, you're going to get a lot of these pet dogs that won't chase a ball on land. Good luck. And
Yeah.
I would see it with my decoy too, like training Mondio ring, and people would come out with their Malinois off Craigslist and, wouldn't even chase the tugs. So it's like, you're kind of like training sport dogs that are pet dogs. So it's
Yeah.
not so fun.
Yeah. It happens more and more now because people see all the cool stuff those dogs can do. And then they go, well, let's just get one of those. And you're like, well, there's a lot of genetics at play here. There's a lot of nurture and nature stuff at play here. And if you're rescuing a dog, sometimes we hit a genetic wall with those dogs, and people are like, well, but in our minds, right, as trainers are like, he'll chase a ball, he'll get a ball. It takes time. We can get him to do it, and it might not be lightning fast, but we could probably get him to do it. But it's their dog, right? That's what I have to remember. It's like it's their dog.
Yeah.
I'm here to help them with the problems that they've presented to me. If they want, and that's the other thing I tell people all the time is like, you don't have to be a dog trainer if you're a client of mine, right? You don't have to be. But if you want to learn a lot of cool stuff, I will share all the cool stuff, why we do all the stuff that we do. And those are the fun clients, right? Those are the ones who are like, no, tell me more. I want off-leash obedience. I want this, and this. And you're like, great, let's pave the road to get there. And then there's the others, which is, again, totally fine. It's like, I just want my dog to stop barking at people, walk nicely on a loose leash, and go potty outside. Great. We can do all that too. But sometimes we as trainers see the potential in a dog and we're like, oh, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this dog. And they're like, yeah, we just need him to walk nicely on a loose leash. Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool too.
On the other side, yeah, that can be hard for us as trainers. The other side is like yesterday, there was this couple and they had these two dogs, and the one dog hates water and hates toys. And I'm like, oh my gosh, square peg, round hole, like leave the poor thing at home. Yeah. So.
And they're professional paddle boarders, right? And that's
yeah. So, yeah, this has been such a good conversation. Is there anything else you could share on, like, if a trainer is trying to decide between maybe doing board and trains versus private lessons? We talked a little bit about group and how struggle bus that can be.
Yeah, so I think you have to have, again, I know a lot of young trainers that do, board and trains, and they've got, and they're in a, one bedroom apartment. It's like not ideal, right? You want to be able to have, I'm very fortunate with my setup here that I've got a park, a trail that runs all the way to downtown. I've got a parking lot. I've got, my dogs. I've got a good setup here where I can do a lot of exposure stuff too. So it's not just, and I've got a little mall across the street where I take the dogs. So I'm set up. In fact, when I moved to this, part of the reason why we moved to this house was the business had grown so much that I needed more space. But I think board and trains can be extremely successful, and I think they're necessary, especially for really behavior cases that need time away and we have to really rehab them. But I always encourage people, don't rush to do them. I understand that financially it's a nice bump, but it's a 24-hour a day gig. And I think young trainers don't realize that oftentimes too, is like, well, I want to go to my friends for the weekend. I want to head to the mountains for the weekend, but I can't. Can somebody watch my board and train? No, you should be committed to that dog. And board and trains, when they come here, I tell everyone is that they're part of my family as much as my dogs are when they're here. So I think that's also a unique piece of what I do a little bit differently. But in general, I think start with the pet dog stuff. And if you can set up dates at parks or where you're going to clients' homes, that's a great way to get started. And then you can also get a feel for the type of clients that you want, not just the dogs, but like, who are you really looking for? Like you said, you might just wanting to help fur mommies and daddies with their little pups and helping those dogs with anxiety. Great, stick with that. Because those people are going to talk to people, and then that's going to naturally help grow the business in the direction that you're going, right? They're going to, I have a fearful dog too. This dog used to be fearful, but I worked with X, Y, and Z. Can I have their number? The word of mouth, as I said earlier, is huge. But if you have the space and time to do board and trains, and you think that you're qualified to do it, and you have the experience to do it, then great. But what I tell everybody that does a board and train with me, again, at the evaluation, the training starts the day you pick the dog up. The dog is going to look great with me. It's like building a computer. You're going to send the computer to me. I'm going to build it, and then I'm going to show you how to access all the programs in it and teach you how to use the computer. But doesn't mean we erase the hard drive, especially with behavior modification cases, right? That there's still that stuff that's going to be there. But if you're always accessing all the new information, continuously, consistently, you're going to be fine. But I tell people, do not waste your money if you are not going to follow up and be consistent with the dog. So every board and train, they have an hour go home, sometimes hour and a half go home session, a follow-up session within the first week at their home in their environment, and then we do another one after that. And so my job is at that point, again, it's a knowledge transfer. My job is not to say, hey, you need to know how to do all this stuff that I've done with your dog while they were here for 4 or 6 weeks, but you need to know how to manage your dog on a day-to-day basis and be in a maintenance phase for the rest of your life with this dog. And I know a lot of board and train programs, again, not to pick on young trainers, but where they're just like, yep, I fixed the dog. I'll see you later.
Mm-hmm.
You can call me whenever you want. We have a lifetime guarantee. That doesn't mean anything, right? So back to, if you qualify the folks up front and you are very upfront about your expectations of them as well as your expectations for their dog, you should be set, right? Things should be pretty good. But you have to have the knowledge and the expertise and the experience to do what you say you're going to do. And so again, with the pet dog side of things, if you're picking an expertise, if you're doing the fearful, nervous dogs, if you're just doing obedience, whatever it is, become an expert at it, right? Be really good at it. The good things will come.
Yeah, I think too with board and trains, because there is that transfer of leadership role, having some things in writing, maybe like a quick cheat sheet that they could stick on their fridge, some videos where you explain some things, because it's a lot when they pick up their dog too, and they're stressed and they're excited and confused. So having like some written homework will help protect you. Because like you said, like you really want to make sure that they understand and that you're being fair and clear about the expectation for them. So they're not just like, where's my robot?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Everybody goes home with I email them a PDF of some very basic instructions. And then at our go home session, I either record it or I'll just set their phone on the tripod and let them record it. And I actually do that with even my private sessions. Like, you are welcome to record all of this. You're going to get your instructions, but we cover a lot, right? And even I tell people when they leave an evaluation, I said, you'll be lucky if you can hang on to 25% of what I just threw at you.
Yeah.
But every time they come, you can record it, or you can record me doing it, and then I record you doing it, because let's just use technology. Let's have it in front of us. Let's not, as much as I will type up go home instructions for folks, but I don't like typing up all this lesson stuff because everybody needs it differently. And if they can see themselves, and I tell them too, is like when I am out training, if I don't have a spotter, I'm oftentimes recording myself. When I go back and watch it, I catch stuff. I make a mistake and I can see it. So it's important that if you're not training with your spouse and you guys can hold each other accountable, then record it. There's nothing, why not? See what's going on. And then also, if you feel like you're struggling, you can send me the video and I can then help you and go, hey, you waited too long to mark that, whatever it is, right? And the folks that take me up on that are my favorite clients of all. I've had clients send me Excel spreadsheets of like what they've done on the hour, right? And like, wow, intensely. I'm like, those are really good clients. And those are the ones that see the most results. Now, not everybody needs to do that, but I want to make sure that I'm helping them be successful. Like I tell everybody, because it's all word of mouth for me, is like, your success is my success. Mm-hmm. And I need you to help me help you. And if you can just do these basic things, you're going to see changes. And I'm like, if you can't commit to like 2 or 3 changes at home, then you're going to continue to struggle. But I'm here to help.
I'm hearing in my head, help me, help you. What's that movie? Tom Cruise? Cuba Gooding Jr.? What's that movie? Yes. Help me, help you. What's your slogan again?
Training dogs and teaching humans.
Yes. I love that. That is a very powerful slogan. And then one thing you'd said about like, if you're, in an apartment, maybe not the right fit for running board and trains right now. So I've always been like a frugal person. So I'm like, we can do board and trains out of our home. And I've always, had that. I've had facilities, and it's very stressful though. And I was in a podcast, you probably saw the Michael Ellis one where I was talking with him. And he's like, if you can avoid it, try not to have the board and trains in your home. So I wanted to share, I'm at my friend's in Kansas, right on the border of like Kansas and Missouri. And it's the first time I've ever been to her facility. She's going to Scotland in a week or 2. So I said I would come, I would learn all the things, and I would just be here. So if any fires to put out, I'm on it. So, she has a pool and Flirty gets to swim. So I'm like, this is great. Anyway, I'm so impressed. She has a veterinary background, so she's got a lot of protocols that are just amazing. Across the street is where she lives in a little condo, cutest little apartment condo. And they just can walk across the street to their facility that's on a main street with a gym next to them, a veterinarian next to them on the other side. Like amazing, like facility in the city, covered all like the rules and regs for the Department of Agriculture, but like just walk across the street and we're at home in this great apartment. And I'm like, what a brilliant
A
setup.
great setup. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, again, part of the reason we moved to this house where we're at now is I still have dogs on site, but we have what's called a dog room, and it's off the side of the house. It was a room that was actually built by the previous owners, but it's off site enough. Whereas before my old place, the dogs were in a spare room.
Yeah.
It was just, even though they're not there, they're there all the time. Here it's nice because they're away, and I can bring them in and we can do place work in the house and they can be around the family and socialize,
Yes.
but then they go away. And it is ideally at some point, maybe we get to where I have a facility, but there's all the headaches that come along with that. But I agree with Michael. You have to be able to separate that and put that away and be done for the day. So back to, like, I kind of treat the board and trains like my dogs. Like, we have potty breaks, everybody has potty breaks. Everybody gets training time, then they go back into their kennels, right? And they get downtime. And then in the evening, depending on where we're at in the board and train, the dogs either come in the house and chill out and it's downtime with us, or they're back to their kennels and it's bedtime and we start all over again. And I think people like that. They like the idea of the dogs not just being in a facility too, where they're just like, they're in a kennel all day and then they go out for training a little bit and potty breaks. But you got to do what you got to do, and everybody has their own vision of what their business should look like. And again, I've been very fortunate to stay very busy and grow at a pace that I can sustain. And I'm, again, very fortunate to where I can kind of pick how big I want it to get at this point and keep growing. So I've been very blessed.
Awesome. Well, we've covered so much stuff today. We're almost at an hour, but is there anything else you wanted to share for maybe new dog trainers? Because we've kind of talked a lot about stuff that may be of value to them. I think too, I wanted to say, like, when you speak, like when you flip to like, this is what I say to my clients, and you go into the spiel, it doesn't sound like a shtick or a spiel. Like it's actually quite mesmerizing when you start talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to bring my dog to this, and maybe you can help me. And I don't even have that situation, but yeah, that's definitely something maybe you could share on is how you speak and communicate.
Yeah. So I think kind of back to like my background in sales was that I don't think I was ever like a really salesy sales guy, if that makes sense, right? Like, they always say, you got to have your elevator pitch and you got to be able to run this. Like this all just comes naturally to me. And over time, right, I end up saying a lot of the same things, right, through the process. And it's like, these are things, the reason why I say a lot of those same things is because I know that they stick, right? They have a meaning when I'm saying them. And obviously I mean what I say. This isn't me just making stuff up and going, this is my elevator pitch to people when they come for an evaluation. No, I'm very genuine when I say these things. And so I think also, finding your voice as a trainer, right? What you really believe in and making that your pitch, right? You don't need to sell people on the service of dog training. What you need to sell them on is that your ability to connect with them and connect with their dog and make them feel comfortable. And it has to be genuine. It has to be genuine. And if it's not, they're gonna pick up on it. And if they don't, it's gonna come through in the training. It's gonna come through somewhere. Again, I know I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I've had plenty of people come to me that go, I canceled my last 4 sessions with our old trainer because we weren't getting anywhere. I like what you had to say, and my neighbor used you. So they threw that money away to come spend money with me. And I take those things very serious. I tell everybody, like, when they leave, not only you can call me, you can text me, like, I take this very serious. Your success is very important to me. And I don't want you guys to leave here thinking, gosh, we should have asked this, we didn't have this, or, let's get all that out there. So I think the important piece, again, for young trainers is to be genuine and stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Experiment with your own dog. Go to all, there's plenty of great seminars out there. Again, we all love Michael Ellis. He's one of my favorites of all time. His online suite is growing every day, and there's a lot of great information on there. But find a trainer that you like and reach out to them. I mean, that's how for my kind of mentorship program is people have found me. I don't advertise that, hey, I train trainers, but I've helped a lot of young trainers. And it's because they've found me somehow through a neighbor, through my website. They see it and they go, well, it's kind of a cool website. It's a little different than most other websites. And they reach out or they find me on Instagram. But if you can have a passion for not just the training and being around dogs, but a passion for helping people, kind of to bring this full circle as to what you said. I love teaching. I love training. I love helping people. And so I think that's what good salespeople are, right? Is that they're good at helping people solve problems. And I love to solve problems and I love to help people. And that's the fun part about dogs is that there's always something new going on, right? We got to be able to solve that puzzle and kind of unrattle that riddle and help people with those issues that they have.
Excellent advice. You gave me a good idea while you were kind of like, because you're speaking on like new trainers, hey, like here's some ideas for you. And I was thinking, if you're not quite ready to go into the deep end with a certain behavior problem in front of a client, with a client, you have to learn, maybe, I don't know, get involved with a rescue.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a rescue that's an all breed rescue. So you have more variety. Or if you're like, I struggle with boxers, help out that boxer rescue. And maybe just instead of board and train, start with helping the rescue. You'll get business that way. You'll get exposure and you need hands-on dogs. You got to get some dogs. So that might be something. If I were going to do it all over again, I'd probably get with a rescue, because we would take in rescue. We've worked with the lab rescue and they would send us the dogs and, they would pay us a small amount to board and train the dogs. And we didn't have to do any of the follow-up lesson. We just trained the dog and then gave it back, but maybe foster or something.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the other thing is that I've had trainers reach out to me like, hey, I'm really struggling with this dog. I've kind of hit my limit. Can you kind of come partner with me on a session or come evaluate the dog with me? And of course, I'm happy to do that. I want to help them. I'm not trying to take their business. I want to help them, but it's a good opportunity for them to kind of learn how to handle not only, again, the client in a situation where the client's maybe giving them some pushback or they're struggling, or just seeing a new approach, right? And I would say, kind of, I know we got to wrap up here, but that's the other thing too, is don't get stuck in a system. There's a lot of, quote unquote systems out there and a lot of cool, fancy stuff that you see online. And it's like, you got to do this. That's all good, but take what works for you and works for your client and put it all together. And that just takes time and it takes experience. But a lot of times I see this with folks like stuck. This is how we do it. You have to use a prong collar. You got to use a slip leash. You got to use an e-collar. It's like every dog is different. Every dog's need is different, and you got to find what works best for that dog. And sometimes whatever system that you think is the greatest system of the week isn't going to work for that dog or work for that client. And so you've got to be adaptable, and and the only way you can adapt is because you've learned from a lot of different people and a lot of different quote unquote systems or different trainers. I'm not a big fan of like people just being like, yep, this is how we do it.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah, you've got to be creative and you've got to be open to asking for help and finding a mentor. I mean, the few times that I've had to be really, truly like creative because the dog had maybe previously like a collapsed trachea or was just like something's going on there, and I'm like, I got to train this dog on a harness. So weird. Yeah. But all right, let's do it. Having the ability to use food. And then if that's all you use and the dog will not take food, you've got to figure something else out.
How do you motivate him? Yeah.
Yeah. So, definitely. If folks want to reach out to you because you would be a great mentor for them, can you share a little bit about where they can find you, like your website?
Yeah. So it's walkingwithwalter.com. That's how you find me. It's where you see Walter will be on there. His little story's on there. But there, or you can always email me too. Just click the contact me link on there. But happy to help anybody that's needing help.
Are you on socials or not so much?
Sorry. Walking with Walter is the Instagram. We have a Facebook page, but to be honest with you, I don't do much with it.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
I sense aversion there. I wanted to say too, Walking with Walter, like, when I went to the site, I've already told you this because we've met in the past. And I was just like, it's so memorable. Like, I was like, is Walter a poodle? Like, I've got to know more. Who is Walter? Like, it's such a great name. I love when dogs are named like a person name, like Carl or Steven, Doug. And I'm like, this is so memorable. And I think on your website, there was like a poodle and it says, beware of Doug.
Yeah, that's our golden doodle, Doug. Yeah. So that sign is on our training fence. So when you walk in, that's the first sign you see is beware of Doug. And so I don't know what, we just have an affinity for human names for dogs. But so Riggs is our Corso. And then, so Walter Riggs. Skipper was our Beagle that passed. But so we always use human names for whatever reason.
Beagles are cool, but I've always wanted whenever I get a bulldog for training, they come in a sister brother situation. And I'm like, I get the boy and the girl always. And the boy is always like cool and like driven and like just awesome. And then the sissy sister is always sissy and sweet and just adorable. But like, I'm like, would you ever get a boy bulldog again?
It's funny. I was just telling somebody about that. I would, but I think it'd be fun to do like protection work with them.
I did hear about a breeder that breeds like ones that can breathe and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of important.
Yeah. Breathing is important, especially here at a mile high. They do need some more oxygen.
Yeah. The altitude. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd get another Beagle for sure. And again, again, after training all these years, like I would put him in detection work. I'd maybe do like bed bug work with something. We love all of the dogs that we've had, but he was a special dog. He was a really cool dog. And everybody's like, oh, did he bark a whole bunch? No, he was quiet. He would bark and howl when he needed to, and that was it. And people are like, how do you do that? Well, you train him. Right? You work with them.
That is cool. I wish I got to meet Walter. I love bulldogs.
Then just some more fun pictures of him. They've got some wild stuff. Taught him how to swim. Yeah, when we lived in there, taught him how to swim. Yeah,
without a life jacket because they're made of cement.
Yeah. The first time we moved to the house that we lived in Arizona had a pool. We just finished moving in, and I was in the pool, and he just walked over like he'd never really seen water. He thought he could just walk on the water, and he just went in and just sank, right? I'm like, well, let's get him a life jacket. Got him a life jacket, and then he would go swimming in a life jacket, and eventually we took it off, and he would swim. He'd swim right across the pool, no problem.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Beagle, I'm keen on the Beagle that you mentioned that. I'm always like, I'd love to have a bloodhound and, but so stinky.
They're a great size, right? The Beagles are a really good and typically pretty good temperament, but train them up and you'll be fine.
Oh, I might be getting me a Beagle one day. If they like swimming. I don't know if the Beagles really
Skipper swam too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess when you're in Phoenix, what else are you going to do if it's hot?
Yeah, it's just like either I'll bake on the patio or hop in the cool pool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lawren, for joining me today. We've had such a fun conversation.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
And I think folks will be reaching out to you. I think that you need to do a masterclass with us because we definitely need to get more information from you to help trainers with their sales and communication and customer service.
Happy to do it whenever you need me.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So walkingwithwalter.com if you need to find Lawren, and I'm over at automationdogs.com. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Lawren. Have a great day.
You too. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.